Hi.
Where do we sit? Here? I can't even see you guys. Hi! Hey guys!
Oh no, I said at the end.
Is this right?
Yeah, sorry.
I guess this is... Did you guys like it?
We love it. Oh my
Hey!
god. Love it.
Did you guys cry?
A lot, yes.
As much as I did. I cried too much. So embarrassing.
I think we have our mics here.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Hey. I want to introduce my fabulous panel here. Of course, we have Ali Maki, who's the voice of Officer Giggles.
Yay!
Thank you guys for coming. This is so awesome.
And we also have, let me see here, Yong-hun Chan, who is Pixar story lead.
Woo!
And Patrick Lin,
Star
director
lead.
of photography. All right. To start it off, I want to ask you, all of you, the same question. What was your favorite toy as a kid?
That's easy. I had a whole collection of Polly Pockets, like on the real though. And my mom, who's here, hi mom! Hi mom! We actually found my like vintage collection of Polly Pockets in her garage, and we dusted them off. And I mean, I would spend hours with the little plastic mat and roll it out, put all the houses down, and make all the little things talk to each other for hours. So I felt like I've been training for this role my whole life.
For me, it's G.I. Joe. The 12,
Yeah.
the 12-inch one with a kung fu grip.
Ah.
Not the small one.
I didn't grow up with a lot of toys. I think that's I always question like why they cast me on Toy Story 4 because I don't really play toys. But I always
Make
had,
any?
I don't know. Like when I was a kid, we have this Japanese anime mask that I really like to put on all the time. Even it's break, and I always like it. So in Toy Story 4, we try to present that spirit, like how much you would like those things that we grew up with. So I kind of
So Ali, can you share how you were discovered for this role? I mean, this role basically was built around your laugh.
I guess. Yeah, it's kind of the craziest story because one day I just got this letter from my agent, and it was on nice, like thick, fancy paper, and it had the Incredibles family on the top of the letterhead, and it just said, "Dear Miss Maki, we'd love for you to be in this film." And I straight up, I said, "You guys, this is a joke. Like, are you guys pranking me? What's up? What's happening?" But it ended up being real, and they said that Pixar loves to send letters to every single person they want to cast in their films because they're old school like that, and that's what they like to do, which I think is so wonderful. And I always talk to Jonas Rivera, our producer, and he's like, "You actually read that thing?" He's like, "We send them out, and we don't know if anyone actually reads them." But I was like, "No, it's literally framed in my office, and I'll have that forever and ever and ever." But part of the reason they did say they cast me was because they found this random YouTube video, and I've told you this story before, that I literally made on a weekend with my friends and my dog with no budget for no reason at all. It was just, I just had a day off and I was like, that would be fun. And it barely got any views. I'm telling you, it had like maybe 125 views at the time. And they said that the head of casting at Pixar found it and they just said, that's the girl. So I always tell people, make your own content because even if it has like 100 views, you know, you never know who's watching.
So amazing. So this letter, does it basically just say, call us back, or what?
No, I just love it because they're like, please let us know if you'd be interested at all. You know, thank you so much for your time. And I was like, do you guys know who you are? You're Pixar Animation. Like, I would literally do anything. I would do anything for free. Tell them that. They always tell me. Everyone at Pixar was like, stop saying that, Allie. And I was like, no, I would do anything.
Awesome. Well, here we're lucky to have both Yong-hun and Patrick, who work at Pixar. They flew down today from the Bay. So, can you tell us what your journey was into animation and what it's like to work at Pixar?
I always loved movies, so I studied film. I went to film school, and since it's a Bay Area, it's very hard to actually, after I graduate, it's very hard to look for live action jobs. It's not as easy as down here. But what's a lot up there is special effects. So I got into this special effects company and started doing ride film, which is the movie kind of like Star Tours, so filming the movie. And one of those movies has a stop motion animation character in it. And I worked with an animator who just finished working on Nightmare Before Christmas. And then at that time he said, "Oh, we're making the next movie at James and the Giant Peach. You should come and work for us." So that's my first animated film experience, which is actually a hybrid. It's kind of half live action, half animated. So, but it was a hard film to make because everything is heavy by design. And then at that time, it's around 1995. That's when Toy Story came out. And now once I saw Toy Story, I just go, that's where I want to work. So I applied, and here I am, 23 years later.
Wow.
I am geeking out right now. That's the best.
As for me, I didn't work on the James Giant Peach, but I wish though. But
It's alright, it's not that good.
I feel the same. But anyway, but I came to US in 2005. I was 23. I was originally from Taiwan, born in Taiwan, raised in Taiwan, and I didn't study arts. And I came here learning arts. So I always told everybody like it's never too late. I started learning when I'm 23, learning drawings. And graduated from the schools, I didn't know what I was gonna do, so I kind of accidentally get into Pixar's interns, and I've been there since then. Yeah, so that's how I started.
Can I say what's my favorite thing about everyone at Pixar? Like all of the, like our director Josh Cooley, Jonas Rivera, who is the main EP, and Mark Nielsen, our producer. They would tell me stories about how they were literally interns on Toy Story 1 and just grew up with the company. Yeah, and it just, you can feel all of that in their work, that they just truly love these characters in the films.
You know, when Jonas told me that, so when he became a producer, he told me, he's like, I always remember I was interns on, I won't do his face. I always remember I was interns on Toy Story. The first thing I told Jonas, Jonas, oh. And then that's the first thing I told him. I mean, I worked with him since Inside Out, so we were friends. But I was like, Jonas, you're really, he was sitting on the couch. And that's what I told him. He was like really emotional. I could just put the water.
I think he's younger than me. So.
Oh my god!
You do so much better. What are you eating?
But he has the most energy out of anyone I know. Like, he could be a kid for all I know. He's so great. It's awesome.
So that brings up an interesting point. It's been 24 years since the first Toy Story, and there's been so many advances in animation. And Pixar itself is known for creating its own technology, like the fur, Sully's fur. And so is there anything special in this film that either you had to make just for this film, or things that you could do now that you couldn't do back then?
Oh, there's plenty of things. I think if you think about the first Toy Story, we couldn't really do rain, although there's a rain scene. But we have to cheat it so that it is just like reflection of the rain running down the window. So we cannot really do a downpour. So this time we can do it. 23 years later. And we also did the camera lens. I mean, we actually did extensive research to try to match the actual anamorphic lens. So that actually give it that cinematic look. So that's something new that we did for this movie. And plus a lot of things too for sets, for all the cobwebs and dust, I mean, amazingly though, we have to develop dust, So dust is one very hard thing to do when it's floating. And also the cobweb is very interesting. I don't know how, I think one of the TD actually created an AI spider to actually build the web. And then he actually, and I remember saying after he did the first test, and he said, "Wow, I didn't know that they're very good at hiding." so he has to. I don't know how he did it, but I mean, he has a very good, interesting way of making those cobwebs. It's amazing. So yeah, so there's many things that we couldn't do before we can do it now.
And what is it like to shoot it that might be different from live action?
Shooting it actually, in principle, is very much the same. The film language is the same, right? So a two-shot is a two-shot, a long lens is a long lens. But of course, we don't really have a camera. Our camera is a virtual camera. It's inside a computer. But mathematically, it's true to a physical camera. We have like f-stop, focal length, focus, and depth of field. Everything is exactly like a real camera. The math is amazing. We can also see refractions and reflections. So it's really, really, there's a lot of math inside that camera. But we also, since it's not real, we have to kind of mimic his movement. So we have to mimic if there's a track, if it's a crane shot. And in Toy Story 4, we actually did a lot of camera capture to trying to get the Steadicam look, just to make it feel a little bit more natural, more live actions. Yeah, but basically it's the same as shooting a live action film. Yeah, but we have undo, so that's a big difference.
Too much undo.
Too much.
Too much.
Young Han, could you talk about just the evolution of the story, and this, of course, being the fourth segment of this series, and it seemed like at the end of Toy Story 3, it had wrapped up so nicely, and then how did your team envision how this film was going to go?
Wow, it's a long story. So I started working on Toy Story 4 in 2014 after Inside Out, and so it's been a very long time. And like you guys, when I heard they're gonna make Toy Story 4, I was like, I think I rolled my eyes to the moon or somewhere else. I was like, really? Seriously? But it's part of the job, and I like the challenge. And honestly, I really like the challenge. I like when people say, they're gonna blow it up. It's gonna be crap. I was like, all right, let's see how we can do here. So it took a very long time for us to really understand what we're trying to tell, and I think we kind of set up a goal as like we are not gonna do the same movie what Toy Story 3 does, which is about there are a lot of the stake is really high. It's about life and death, but we want to focus on toys itself a little even more. And then this time we're talking about what's Woody's real choice, like what can he actually choosing something beyond his job and his duty, and then even though that duty sometimes can be love, then can he chose something for himself. And that kind of says it takes about like 2 years to get to that point to understand it. And then so the ending you guys saw, it actually wasn't like that 2 years ago. It was like take 2 years to understand, like we want them to say goodbye to each other and then choose something for himself, but we want to keep that friendship remain. But we thought that's a good ending. I don't know what you guys think, but we thought that's a good ending. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
We went through like 9 different versions too of the whole film.
The 9 you probably see,
Yeah,
but
9
for us we
screenings.
don't know.
Or 9 screenings.
Oh yeah, 9 screen. Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, Woody's voice box was taken by Gabby after they first met, and he was dumped in the dumpster, and he was pulled together with a slap bracelet for the whole film.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
We're just talking about like how he gonna move after he loses his voice box.
So
It's so weird.
we tried everything.
Yeah, we tried.
So many throwbacks. Can you talk about the antique store and the discussions about what got to be in there? How fun was that?
Oh, the antique mall has like 10,000 items in there. Take the set team 2 years to build.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because every object has to be built and placed. And but there's just 10,000 items just for sale, but there's also like dust and cobwebs and bolts, and yeah, there's like the system for everything.
Power strip with all the
Yeah.
plugs in it?
Yeah.
So it's also it's a good opportunities for us to actually put in our legacy props. So props from different movies. So it's a treasure trove for a lot of Pixar.
A lot of Easter eggs in
A
there.
lot of
I saw.
Easter eggs in there.
To echo that, and then we'll echo back to your question, like the technology we advance. I think in Pixar right now we have this VR system. I'm pretty sure Disney probably has the same thing too. So in Toy Story 4, I can actually put the VR goggle and then actually standing in the antique mall and then really scouting the sets. And I feel like I probably booked that VR scouting too much because I really enjoy it. And they can put me into a toy size so I can actually see how Woody sees the world. And it was really fun, like how amazing the set team built the whole sets. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, the VR works really well because sometimes when you're working on different scale, like you don't know if that gap is too wide or too narrow. And once you can actually be toy and look at it, oh, it looks okay. But when it's human, it looks too narrow. So it's very hard to find the balance. So, but being able to pop between the scale, you can kind of nail the sets much easier.
This has been the last 3 years of my life, is just talking to amazingly genius people and just like, how do you do this?
I didn't do it. Someone.
What's happening?
Well, for you, Ali, how is it different from being a voice actor, from being a live action? And what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly the best because I feel like before every session, I never got anything. Like, you don't get any script or anything. The first time I went to the very first session, I just showed up with absolutely no knowledge of anything aside from like a little picture of her and a synopsis. And basically what you do is you just go in there with Josh Cooley, our director, who's insanely, wonderfully amazing. And it's just me and Cooley for 3 years, and he plays every single character for every single scene. And Slansky, our script coordinator, she sits at this little desk and she has this like file box folder, like safe thing. And then every scene is on like thick paper again, and they'll be like, scene 1, bow meet or whatever. And she'll take like the papers out and she'll put it up on my thing, and then like he'll explain what's going on. He'll be like, okay, now Woody's doing this and this and this, and he'll be like, okay, and go. And we just do it, and you're making choices. So for 3 years I was hearing about it, and now the dummies are coming out of the thingy, and I'm just like, what is going on? The dummies, what's happening? And so I think it's so fun though, because it really brought me back to that little girl like playing with her Polly Pockets, because it was 100% imagination based all of the time. I never saw her animated until our very final session when I just broke down sobbing because I felt like this imaginary friend I'd had for 3 years was like coming to life before my very eyes. It was crazy. And then as soon as they were happy with the scene and we did it a bunch of times, she would come back and take the papers down and put them back in the little safe, and then we'd move on to the next one. It was the awesomest process ever for an actor, because sometimes, you know, when you're in front of the camera, you're getting stuck in how you look and this, and, you know, everyone's all around you all the time, like worried about the little hair on your face or whatever. So it was fun to just go and be 100% free. I mean, it was the only job I've ever had where they're like, go to a level 10, and I was like, this is my life. And then they'd be like, okay, that was awesome, now take it to a level 12, and I was like, this is my full potential. So I had so much fun. It's pretty much the best job in the world.
That's awesome. Well, I have a lot more questions, but I know we have a room full of people who have questions as well, so I want to open it up and give them a chance. There's a mic roaming around, so if you have a question, raise your hand.
I just wanted to make a quick announcement that Ali was so gracious to sign a few exclusive posters of.
I don't even have one, guys.
So the first few people to ask a question.
When was it first decided to do a Toy Story 4? Which I imagine is before you guys came on.
I think it's right after Toy Story 3. They're sort of thinking of.
They're thinking.
They're
about
thinking,
it,
yeah.
But I really don't know.
Yeah, because what I heard is that Andrew, sorry, I think that Andrew Stanton, our writer, he always thinks that Toy Story 3 wraps up Woody and Andy's stories, and Toy Story is always about Woody, so always Woody's story, and he have an idea that there's a way maybe to actually end his character arc a little bit better. So I think it's been brewing since then, you know, but I think we actually didn't really started going until 2014.
They usually will have these ideas, but they don't start until they feel like there's something they really need to say. And of course the story changed a lot during the 4 years journey, but they usually just don't say, hey, after Toy Story we're gonna make this one. But they start thinking about it, are we really gonna say goodbye to these characters if we're gonna tell the world like there's no more Toy Story? and this character is done, like no more story about them, then they are the creator of this character, so it's hard for them to say goodbye. So they start thinking about the possibility of it. Yeah.
Pick one, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, right here in front.
Hi, I was just wondering if you know about the process on working with the writers was for this. I saw that there was a few story by, a few written by, and just the iterations it must have gone through, and the feedback loop with storyboard artists and story, and if you could shed some light on that.
The writer at Pixar is really deeply involved in the story process and working with the story artists a lot, and there are so many tensions, but like a good thing in a way. That's how I'm gonna describe it, because they're all really talented, so it's hard to say. They're gonna bring a lot of things into here, and yeah, I mean, I've been enjoy working with the writers, and then because I never actually worked in Hollywood before, so I never actually worked close to a writer, and I'm always like amazed by how much they can bring in so quick and so organized. I definitely learned so much. Like, hey, I'm gonna take this from me. So yeah, we built a really good relationship with a couple of writers, especially Stephanie. She's really, really good. We still talk to each other. We actually just talked yesterday. So
Great.
yeah.
Cool.
The back there. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Oh my god, I cried so much. I'm curious, like I love seeing the diversity in this movie, like the characters, the background characters. That was so fun for me to see, and I was wondering if you guys had I don't know, like discussions about how to balance like the nostalgic Americana aspect, like the cowboys and Little Bo Peep, and with sort of a more modern, multicultural look for this movie.
Sorry.
All right, PR is gonna hate me to say this, but I'm gonna just say it. All right. So when I'm a foreigner. I'm still holding working visa. I always feel Toy Story is a very American central stories, and then nothing wrong about that. To say that it's been created 30 years ago and it is pretty great. But with the current climates and with more diverse artists in the studio, we start bringing more different point of view into the story. So even though this character is just really based on the American culture, but you can see not just on Toy Story, but in other Pixar movie, you start feeling more. Toy Story 4 is Toy Story is a franchise, is a very specific one, just because there's something, if you don't do it, it doesn't feel like Toy Story anymore. Like you say, I cannot take Buzz Lightyear out. It's weird. Or you're gonna change the mannerism of the character, you're gonna feel weird. But we slowly bring more character, like Giggle. We start thinking about broader audience and broader race, and then what this toy world doesn't feel there's a boundary there, and then that's how we're trying to push. Yeah.
Way in the back.
I have a two-part question. So the first question is just, I know you've been living with this film for so long. What is it like to get like actual audience reaction, even though it's only been out for a day? What's the most surprising reaction you've received? And the second part is, I'm asking Allie if she can giggle for the kids.
I feel like that's all I do. Go ahead. It's just my natural laugh. Pretty much.
So I think the most after working on it for so long, I think the most first of all, I think it's really great that it was so well received, because it was a really hard movie to make. Just because Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 are so good, and we just love this character so much, and we just always just trying to make this movie the best thing it can be. And I think this is really just feels good that it's well received. And it feels like, I just dodged the bullets and I didn't get killed, and I win the lottery at the same time. So that feels really good.
I think to me the most surprising thing is when the review is so good. Because not saying the movie to me is bad, because artists always want more. I think we always feel the same way. My colleague was just talking about the other day. If you ask any artists, especially Pixar story artists, are very critical, very cynical. So we finish the movie. We always feel like, I wish I'd do better on that scene. I wish that scene can be right in this way or executed in a different way. And so we feel finished and we're really happy with the product, but we never feel satisfied. So we were really intimidating by the review, before it came out. And when it came out so good, I was like, the film critics give a really good review. I was like, wow, okay, I guess I kind of passed on this. Yeah.
I think Rotten Tomatoes is 97. That's still the worst reviewed Toy Story film.
I actually used my nickname to write one, the negative one.
Oh my god.
No, just kidding. I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
All right, we have time for one more question. Oh, be someone in that quadrant of the room. Pick someone.
Make it good.
You mentioned that there were some multiple endings that they were going through. Would you be able to share a few of those alternatives you may have been going through? And we loved the ending, by the way.
This ending is the best ending.
Where's Tiara? They're like.
No, seriously, I think this is the best ending because we fight for them to say goodbye to each other. So we might execute it a little slightly differently, but they say goodbye. I think it's always the best for Woody.
Yeah, but for a long time, the movie still ends with Woody going back to Bonnie, But I think she brings Bo Peep back, or something like that. But I think after a while we just never see that. Well, that's kind of boring. It's like he goes back to Bonnie again. So I think that's when we think, well, maybe Woody has to leave. That's actually that's the arc that he needs to go. So. Yeah, so I think this is, once we decided that's the direction we've been going.
We have one more question from a very special guest.
He was raising his hand for Mommy, I think. It's more of a comment than a question. Piggybacking on the comment about diversity, I think that what I appreciate about this film as well is the diversity and the differently abled. I work at a children's hospital, and every room I go in, Disney movies and Pixar movies are playing. You guys bring happiness to these kids. So I think I even caught a little boy in the preschool or the kindergarten with a cochlear implant.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody else caught that, but I did because of who I work with. Bo, who has a broken arm and is such a strong female character. I just really appreciate those little peaks that what the kids I work with will see as heroes.
That's great.
So thank you.
Alright. Well, as you know, this film is open in theaters now, and so your mission is to spread the word to everyone you know, to also go out, buy a ticket, support the film, #GoldOpen. Also, please follow Cape on social media. And I'm hoping we're going to get one of these posters that we can do a giveaway. We'll see how to work on that. And
Can I please thank Michelle and Bing, because without, these two people have been the ultimate spearhead of everything for our community, and we couldn't be more grateful. Bing, where are you? Bing, I love you so much. Honestly, Bing and Michelle, you're like the prom queen and king of the community, so
thank you for that.
I love you.
And also, once again, to Chris Kim and Walt Disney Animation Studios for hosting us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And as you know, Cape and Gold House, we're both nonprofits. Please, if you have any extra time, money, tweets, whatever, everything counts. So thank you very much. Thank you to my fabulous panel.